Hello, my name is Anoa Changa.
The Way with Anoa. The Way with Anoa.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 13th edition of The Way with Anoa. I'm your host, Anoa Changa, and I'm so excited. I tweeted about this earlier. I have my shirt on. Shout out to Bruce Franks. Bruce doesn't even know who I am, but I'm like a big fan. Bruce Franks Jr. Out of St. Louis, Missouri, 78th revote happening this Friday. It's when you if you check out anything that's been going on with this whole process, right? Their election was over a month ago, August 2nd. Bruce was one of several, Bernie Crats that ran across the country, got there, managed the community, really involved and engaged, and he lost. He lost the initial vote on election day in August by 90, I think it was 90 votes, 90 absentee ballots, right? So, that's just so close. So him and his team, they were able to pull together the money to get a recount, and they really dug in, and some other independent investigation started. I think one of the newspapers did an independent investigation, and it came to some irregularities, some inconsistencies, some suspicious activities involving primarily these absentee ballots. I think it was like 250 altogether or something like that. So there was a court challenge mounted. And the incumbent is apparently a part of, the fifth, like the political machine for that area. She, her husband, her son, and her daughter all hold some type of political office in that area, all control some type of funds or other, like it's really like, when we talk about all the things we believe is wrong with the Clinton family on a smaller scale, right? And this is really why getting involved at your state and local level in those elections is so crucial, because here we have someone who's an average, ordinary Joe, so to speak, right, who got out there and decided he wanted to be a representative of the people. Like, he worked in the community, he's worked with youth, he's, worked with the police, he's worked with so many different groups, he's been an activist. He wanted to contribute in this way, and it's so amazing to see people come together behind candidates they actually really believe in. I'm inspired, and I'm all the way down here in Atlanta and can't even vote for the brother. You know what I'm saying? Like seriously, I found out about him around the same time I found out about Cori Bush. Like you guys know from before, Cori Bush totally. And I still got to see. I don't even know if Cori has any more shirts left, but I still want to rock one of her shirts too. But anyway, I was really excited to get this. This is part of one of their fundraisers selling these shirts. Part of his theme is like being a superhero. And you can see the graphic and stuff online. But Bruce Franks Jr., check him out on Twitter. Give him a shout out. Even if you're not in the area, definitely show them some love, because it has been an uphill battle. Thankfully, for the most part, it seems like the newspaper, I can't remember exactly which newspaper. I know St. Louis American magazine endorsed him. He's had some other endorsements from other elected officials in the area. And people have really come out to support him, because the incumbent, Mrs. Hubbard, and the black establishment, and someone made a comment about the white establishment trying to hold out a black candidate. That's what's even more egregious. These are black Democrats. These are black elite Democrats that have held on to the reins of power, that have had their hands in the cookie jar for eons, who are not making decisions in the best interest of the community. Today, love her dearly, Liz Brown, attorney Liz Brown on Twitter, Liz did one of her famous unpackings today, and she unpacked not so much this stuff with the election, but the sordid affairs of the Hubbard clans. Hashtag Dem Hubbard, HUBBARDDEM, HUBBARD, and really laid it out in terms of things, everything from one of the Hubbards who received award from the Koch brothers, Alec. Democrats receiving awards from Alec? Where does that happen? To everything from Miss Hubbard receiving offices with other Republicans, right, and not with the other Democrats. Like it's just all types of stuff going on with them. Money being misplaced, like thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. And this is on a state level, so that's a lot. So all this to say that this is very exciting to see that that this brother was able to stand up against the machine, that the people stood with him, and that he has prevailed. I mean, we're so far so good. He won at the trial court level in terms of the revote. They immediately appealed, and he's had, a sitting member of the Congressional Black Caucus trash talking him on Twitter. He's had folks from the NAACP trash talking. I mean, like, seriously, people are so nervous about losing their positions of power. They are trying to bring this brother down and bring down the revolution on a scale in St. Louis. And we've seen so much about St. Louis over the past few years. And this is like the type of revolutionary change that we're talking about needs to happen across the board. And it's very exciting. And, I get excited thinking about Joshua Harris as well. The Baltimore Greens held a function with Ajamu and see, I remember his name. He should be president. I'm joking. But and Jill Stein, they did a whole big thing in Baltimore and stuff. So shout out to Joshua Harris, who's running on the Green Party ticket in Baltimore as mayor. Like, these are people who are out there, community first. These are the type of people we should have as our civil servants. These are the type of people we should have as our elected officials. And it's really exciting to see people get behind them, organizing, engaging, and thriving with the community. So Bruce, they won their appeal. Shout out to his lawyer and the whole team that out there that's just doing whatever they have to do to get it done. If you are in the Missouri area, Missouri is a big state, I know. If you're in the St. Louis area, or if you're somewhere in Missouri nearby and you can get there, they are asking for donations of large umbrellas for Friday's revote. So this went up on appeal, and the appeal court went through its whole analysis and discussion and found that the trial court made a correct decision. Like, the decision that it made was within the evidence that presented. So it affirmed, the decision for the revote. The revote is going forward on Friday, September 16th. District 78 is going to do it all over again. So, really hoping they're able to turn out the vote and get the people out there the way they need them to really, shake some stuff up in their area in that part of Missouri. So that was pretty exciting. I want to start off on a high note, right? Because, I got Stacey Hopkins getting ready to come on me in a little bit, and we're going to chop it up the only way we can, This past Sunday, I had the wonderful opportunity of doing another women's roundtable. And if you have people that you would suggest, it doesn't have to just be women. I have this group of women, I like talking with them, and we all end up talking so much. It's such great conversation. We figured we would do it on air for all of you to enjoy as well. Had a little hiccup with the chat. I was running it, shout out to David Grossman, who's my producer, who runs the show for me, because without him, you would not have a chat window during the live stream, because I totally messed it up. But you guys contributed in the comments. It was all good. It wasn't really any issues and stuff. So greatly appreciate those people who hung out with us on Sunday. But that's up on my website, thewayofanoa.com. You can also check us out on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. But that episode is up, also on Podcast Revolution. And it's on my YouTube channel, so check it out, definitely. But I wanted to have Stacey was supposed to join us for that conversation, and technical difficulty, she wasn't able to, so she definitely was going to hop on tonight, and we're going to continue talking some more about some of the things happening in the latest news, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that caught my eye, that, there's so much going on right now, Hillary's health, and whether or not she's being poisoned by the Russians, and Trump is a racist idiot, and blah, blah, blah. Something that came up that I really thought was important to touch on, I saw a little blip about it earlier today, was the FBI allegedly is getting ready to release a report indicating that there has been a significant increase in the murder rates for 2015. So basically when you control 2015 compared to 2014. So there's a Guardian piece, and one of the studies the study that was done for the DOJ by a professor out of St. Louis. This study looks at 3 reasons for looking at why murders may have increased between 2004 and 2005, like for 2005 as compared to 2015. I'm using the wrong years. 2015 and 2014. I said 2005 like 3 times. See, come on now. I need y'all to correct me. Come on, help me out, y'all. But anyway, so part of the 3 reasons that they looked at in terms of trying to explain why the murder rate increased, like, supposedly significantly. I mean, that's debatable because people can do whatever they want to do with statistics. They don't control for certain things, whatever. But anyway, so they looked at increase in urban drug territory, primarily the increase in heroin use, abuse, and overdoses, as well as in drug-related crimes around heroin. Excuse me. Some of the research was showing that heroin use and drug crimes have grown exponentially over that of cocaine. And then the other thing they looked at was the increase in prisoners being released back into the community, people not being kept in jail as long, people being re-released, in greater numbers than before. And then the third thing was the so-called Ferguson effect. So I'm really disappointed with this report that was presented to the DOJ, presumably commissioned by the DOJ, because to look at, there was a mere blip about, social economic status, about poverty, about, issues involving unemployment. When you look at, one of the arguments made is that it's not that it's increasing everywhere across the nation exponentially, but it's only concentrating like 10 of the largest, 10 certain urban centers, so it's pretty much the usual suspects, right? Chicago, LA, Baltimore, well, maybe not LA, it was Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit, Cleveland, there's that list. Milwaukee might have been on there. I can't remember all 10 off the top of my head, but one of the things that stuck out to me though, and was Chicago. I used to live in Chicago, know a little bit about some of this stuff. I'm not going to act like I'm a Chicago expert, but with Chicago, what stuck out to me was the fact that there have already been issues with the way the police department had reported numbers for 2014. 2014 numbers, there was a series of articles done by, I think it was a Chicago magazine, and there was also some other stuff done by Chicago Reader. There's some really great investigative journalism that's come out of Chicago in the past couple of years, particularly when it involves the police and other stuff going on with Rahm's administration as well. So part of that looked at the way they were reporting the numbers. And there has been the same, accusation like with New York and other cities too, that they're reporting their numbers in a certain way to make it look like they've had this sharp decline when really they're just changing how they report numbers. So this was not really accounted for in this report that's being relied upon, ahead of this alleged FBI increase to say that there's a spike in crime. And guess when this report is allegedly due to come out? Again, I say allegedly. This is an article that I was reading today, and they were saying the FBI is supposed to be releasing this report on the day of the first debate. So the concern is that if there is, in fact, some report that is being released, considering the climate that we have right now, considering the candidates that we have right now, right? Because on the one hand, we supposedly have this great racial justice champion, Hillary Clinton, rah, she's going to fight for us. She's caring about our issues, whatever. And then we have this raging KKK Nazi racist Donald Trump. So scared for my life. Oh my God, there's going to be a cross burning in my front yard. Terrified. Can't you see I'm shaking? Like, really? Anyway, so if we have this conversation, right, it seems like we're almost in the 90s again. With this alleged, and that's the one thing they talked about in this. It's like, so, there was this, there hasn't been this huge increase in crime since, well, not in just crime, in murder, right? Since that early 90 period when, Bill had approved that he was so tough on crime. So do we see that same scenario happening again? After all this yah about criminal justice reform, are we going to see this happen, a redux? Is this going to be Clinton part 2? I'm tough on crime too, to try and pull some of those moderate Republicans, as we've seen that she's already been doing? Or do we see Donald Trump, who's already put out, not fraudulent, but fallacious numbers and statistics, and really fanning the flame of the rabid form of racism that some of his supporters, embrace? Do we then have this type of report fanning the flames and only furthering not just that stuff, but decision-making that is being made at the state and local level? Because again, we're talking about issues with prisons, we're talking about, criminal justice reform. A lot of the things that affect, our individual daily lives are happening at the state and local level. These are decisions happening in cities and practices like stop and frisk. This stuff is happening not at some high federal decision-making level, but in these very more local, colloquial settings. So that was something I thought was really interesting. to talk about, but it really bothered me that this report commissioned by the government included this nonsense about the Ferguson effect. The Ferguson effect has already been debunked several times over. This is a recent report that just came out in June. That and they didn't really. There was no real discussion about, like I said, unemployment, any of the underlying factors that may contribute to crime. The different types of crime that like we talk about murder, like murder includes things like self-defense. Like it didn't parse it out at all, and it didn't account for the fact that in some of these cities there has been a misreporting or underreporting of statistics in prior years. So what can seem like a huge increase may or may not even actually be that huge. What is leading? Is there really some new thing going on? Who knows? I mean, I also wonder, and don't laugh at me because people laughed at Bernie when he said this. I also wonder when we talk about, global warming and we keep talking about how it's getting hotter, right? And when you look at, again, I'll talk about Chicago. When you look at Chicago and you look at those months, and as soon as there's a really nice hot day, there's a whole mess of shootings and other stuff going on. So is there a connection? Is there a connection between increase in temperature, and particularly when we're talking about our urban centers, concrete jungles? Is there a connection between that and gun violence? I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But if it applies that, when we look at, rise in terrorism and other things, if global warming is leading to increased violence and other stuff in other places, why would that also not hold true here? That's just my thought for the evening on that one. So yeah. So Stacey, her daughter was adulting but needed her help adulting. So she'll hop in whenever she can before it's over. But that was one of the things I thought about with the FBI report, and it kind of dovetails into something else that I was going to talk about, but I'll hold off on that, and I'll talk a little bit about kind of the Dakota Access Pipeline, what's going on. Last week, everybody cheered. Obama saved us. Hallelujah. Praise him, our savior. Obama's still a good guy after all, right? Granted, it was the heads of the departments that actually did something, but when your employees do something good, you get all the credit. When your employees do something bad, you fire them. So the Dakota Access Pipeline, there are so many pieces about it. I'm sure everyone's familiar with it by now. Shout out to everyone who's out there at Standing Rock, out there at the Sacred Stone Camp. I just sent a little care package to my sis, Desiree. Shout out to Desiree, who is actually working on a piece right now for Yes Magazine. So maybe she'll let me talk about it, because I know like her service and stuff has been very sketchy out there. But so as you guys know, the pipeline, they decided they were going to hold. They were temporarily rescinding the permits on the federal land. But keep in mind, the federal land, the land that's under the jurisdiction of the Army Corps of Engineers and the federal government, is a very small portion of the overall land of this 4-state pipeline project, which was restated very proudly so by Energy Transfers today. They, by way of its CEO, released a memo saying that they intended to go on with construction, which they in fact did. They were asked temporarily to stop construction and just hold off while this was all resolved. They were like, nah, bump that. We doing this anyway. Very gangster. So there were solidarity actions today all over the country. And there's been some pictures, though, from actual on-site where some of the construction has been taking place, some video. Apparently, Facebook was at one point taking down and not permitting people to share videos from various sites. There were some citizen journalists on site who actually were a part of actions to try and slow and halt construction. I mean, a lot was going on today. So this is that we gotta make sure, because if anybody read the actual, people are like, oh my God, construction. If you actually, there were a couple of articles out over the weekend that explained this, but also if you actually read the DOJ statement, it was very clear what was going on. Most of that land is quote unquote private land. Now, who owns the land and all the other stuff, I have not actually looked into deeds and title transfers and things like that. But what they basically said today was, we have all the right of ways that we need. This is all private land with the exception of that little piece. We're going ahead because we're confident that science and engineering will prevail, and we're still going to do this thing. And there's already, pipelines. People have already dug under the Missouri River. It's no big deal. Shout out to Leaner Danger, who pointed out that the company, the main company in charge, actually has been responsible for a big oil spill that happened up in Michigan, up in near Ypsilanti, I think it was, a couple years ago. And that caused a lot of issues for people in their water source and that cleaning up effort and stuff up there. So it's not like, I think when you have a company that has an issue and you have it, like, you shouldn't be getting fast tracked. When you've already done these projects before and you've proven that you're negligent, faulty, or some other way, you're just not a good actor, you don't get fast tracked to another damn permit to do another project, particularly involving large bodies of water. Like, it just don't make sense to me. I mean, I don't know. So I think we have maybe a clip from earlier today of I think it's Action. So we'll show that to you in a little bit. But one of the things that's been coming across is like, and it's really great to see that people are really standing in solidarity, because water, I mean, it's not just a catchy phrase. It's not just, something that reminds me, I think of Dune all the time when people say water is life, right? Shia Lu, bless the maker in his waters. Like, it really is life. And we actually started saying it ourselves after, here comes Stacey. Hey! We started saying water is life after, our chemical spill. And again, it's not even the same level as what is happening out in North Dakota. It's not as what the same thing has been happening to, Native peoples for generations now. But I can understand and empathize. And we talk about, appropriate and take somebody's movement and take someone's struggle. But at the same time, we do need to acknowledge the continuation of oppression across jurisdictions, across isms and stuff like this. At the end of the day, we have an issue with corporations and money and the way in which they influence government decision making. Like, when you have the senator of that area receiving a monetary benefit from this project because he owns stock in the company at issue, that's a problem. How can you be considered someone to represent? I mean, I guess he is representing he's not, because the company's from Texas, so I can't even say he's representing his constituency. So it's real interesting what's going on, but it's really good to see people stepping up. For folks who are like, well, that's their problem, or they just need to go someplace else. This was their land first, right? Like, European Americans came here, took the land, corralled them into some other land, say, okay, we got a treaty, we're going to negotiate with you for this land, but then we're going to come back and take that land too, and then renegotiate. See, like, you can't renegotiate agreements that you've already allegedly negotiated in good faith. Like, you just can't do that shit. Like that's not okay. That's bad karma. That's bad karma. Have ancestors and stuff. They woo. But I was reading earlier too that some okay, no problem. I saw earlier that some folks had not gone back to work because there was, with the work stoppage, and they don't feel like dealing with the protesters, and then they hadn't been getting paid like they needed to. So this is just so many facets and stuff. But Stacey is here. I do have a clip to show you guys. We're getting that clip up. But we're getting a clip up. Hey, Stacey.
Hey, girl, I want a shirt.
Nat Turner. Fuck this shit. I think messing with Stacey, I'm gonna have to change my iTunes status.
Nobody wants to go out with me. They're like, we're gonna get locked up with you with this shirt, but people love it.
I'm at the borrow that. But yeah, how you doing today?
I'm wonderful, mommy. How you doing?
I am great. True savage.
Didn't they tell you? I thought they told you. That whole white horse.
So my daughter calls Stacey a true savage, true OG savage.
OG savage. I was so filled with life with that. Nayla,
like Hey, look, Nayla says she's an OG savage. And then the kids be like savage, and then they dab.
I was too junior savage, but I kind of embrace that. I'm not the kind of person who gets old. You will never see me like in those elastic all the way around pants. I'm not that chick, but it's really strange that I find more commonality with the younger generation, or I find more affiliation politically with those who are maybe a generation behind me than my own contemporaries. To say we're part of the woke party, and but I'm glad to be here with you, and just wild out a little bit.
I know that's right. Late. I mean, there's a lot going on. And I really think like this whole, I mean, it probably could all be summed up pretty well with Lil Wayne.
Oh my God. You know what?
I think Lil Wayne is the gift that just keeps on giving for the night, man. Like,
it's a hell of a drug. That purple drink. I don't know what
purple drink is a hell of a drug. Like, I don't understand. I don't know who said it last week. It might have even been Ben who said, like, not everybody who's famous needs to have a spotlight, needs to be asked about certain things. And but this is the other side of having Colin on the national stage, right? We got Colin, and everyone's like, "Yeah, we love what he's saying. Yeah, the movement's growing. Yeah." And like, I don't even say who.
Like the weird
That
uncle
Joe.
that's in the attic. You know, the uncle that you never bring out. You know, he's always there. You know, he's got the football helmet and the tutu and the soccer shoes on, and you know, he's got his wide back crackers and the apple juice box. And you know, I was reading the article because the video was embedded in, I think, XXL. And they were talking about the beef with Birdman and Lil Wayne, because you know I'm shallow as shit sometimes. So you know, I was reading that, and then they had the video embedded, and I was like, oh, okay. And you know, his kind of all white manners thing, kind of messaging really confused me, because it seems like these artists, when they get into a certain socio or economic level, then all of a sudden your politics change. You forgot where you came from. And it was like, boy, for someone to have come out of the neighborhood that he did, it was really surprising to hear that. And to look back at the body of his work, you know, the only thing you could say is like, dude trying to get paid, you know. He's trying to keep an endorsement deal or something. I don't know, but that was
all the white people. That's Samsung. He don't want Samsung to drop him. He don't want Samsung to drop him. You know, he pouring. Right. But for all those of them know, you know, Lil Wayne basically said that there is no racism in America. White people come to his concerts. And Ben has some really great points. I'm sure Ben will go ham on it, you know, when he comes on next. Shout out to the big brother Benjamin Dixon Show. But this notion, but who seem to think that, right? Like you said, they get to a certain standing, and no matter how much they struggle growing up, it seems like you really do forget where you came from. And even when your brand and your music is all about how you repping the hood and all this other stuff, your words, your mentality is so out of touch with what's happening. Even those who criticize, you know, Colin for the Take a Knee, you know, and others, you know, who have decided to do it. Like, I'm most impressed with the young people who are other players, like the high school students. There's a young man. Well, that's not Take a Knee. That's the Dakota Access Pipeline. But there is also the activism amongst young activists, right? Amongst young sportswomen, you know, athletes right now, is impressive. There's a young man that's traveling he plays basketball in Wisconsin, that's actually going to North Dakota to be on you know, the grounds for the pipeline protests and stuff. So seeing these young people really take, and they don't have the same level of influence and stuff necessarily that these famous people do, but it's still very impressive. And the one young man, they were threatening to suspend him for taking a knee. I think that was in Maine or Massachusetts. They decided not to because they realized it'd be against the law to suspend him for exercising. But they were really.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Taking the knee. No, I'm gonna be real. I'm not a fan of the whole take the knee thing. I definitely appreciate and understand where it's coming from, but I like when he sat down, he was like, "Oh, I'm not going to sit down." But when he compromised to take the knee, I was like, "Ah, you a sucker." This is the Savage edition, keeping it 100% funky, as my girl Courtney would say. I was like, that's a cop-out, because if you understand what you're doing, instead of trying to get somebody to understand what you're doing and why, or respecting the differences, you allowed somebody else to come in and co-opt your struggle and what you were supposedly standing for. Because I've run a football league before, midget football, and we always teach the kids, if you've been playing football at that level, you've been playing since you was a little itty bitty kid, and everybody knows you take the knee in football out of respect to a fallen player.
Right.
Taking a knee in any context is a sign of respect.
Look, I was waiting to see, like, Olympics 1968, the fist. I was waiting.
Yeah, so the players who did the fist this weekend, I think that was the more, but doesn't matter. So I say that because that's my own personal opinion about the whole take the knee thing, right? Every time I see someone taking the knee, I'm like, y'all look stupid. Are you proposing to somebody? That's me personally. I understand where it's coming from. I understand the need for the protest, and I definitely understand the message. For me, it's dumb. And allowing the gesture to be co-opted, the means of protest, to allow that to be co-opted because you don't want to disrespect veterans when we need to really break it down. Have the national, and y'all didn't even stand for the national anthem until 2009, 2010. Y'all were paid by the Department of Defense, by the military to do so. Like let's not pretend like the NFL is just all patriotic and stuff, right? Like y'all got paid taxpayer money, the national anthem, and have the players out there.
Freedom any way possible, whether we got to bomb your ass or we got to pay people. You're going to take this freedom and you're going to take this liberty.
You're going to take this freedom.
You better take this freedom. Well, this is real hard.
Them Syrians is trying to steal my freedom, so we got to take this freedom. I'm being sarcastic, everybody. I'm being sarcastic.
We have packaged up this freedom, and we have put in it, we want you to have the red, white, and blue, warm and fuzzies. And we're going to bring this to you with corporate sponsors. And, for me, it was kind of, the whole issue was really, really for me because, my husband, he was in the Marines for 13 years. I've had, my daughter is currently in the Navy. I've had a relative to fight in every war. And, when the whole military aspect came into it, I'm thinking, I'm trying to think of anybody in my family. And I'm asking people, why did you join the service? And they're like, for a job. We didn't have the red, white, and blue patriotic thing. It was just a job. And, like my husband, he broke it down to me. He was like, yeah, I had a job, and, the job, part of the job means breaking you down and building you up in the military way, which is necessary to some extent because you have to depend on your whole company or platoon when you're out there. So I get that part. He was like, yeah, he kind of got indoctrinated a bit with the red, white, and blue, but he was like, at the end of the day, still a black man, and he understood what that meant. And my husband, he was in the military, and he went through boot camp way before, the new reforms that have come through. So he went through the old military. It was racist as hell, it was homophobic. And, listening to him, and it's been really amazing watching my own husband's conversion, to watch him, get into the conversation. And he was like, you know what? It's just, and it's very hard for service people because that is, the patriotism is so ingrained in the fabric of military service. And I believe in the promise of what America can be.
Right.
I believe that what was concocted, what was drawn up by the founding fathers, because they didn't find shit, okay? But what they came up with was a really good frame for democracy, but they even said and admitted that it was imperfect, right?
Right.
So I hold on to the hope of the perfection. And it's a really great framework, but it was kind of sketchy, And I've always had a problem. You heard me saying, with Scout on Down South and Dirty. It's very hard for me to get into it because it really didn't mean that much to me. And when I was a kid, I just didn't want to get up and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I was that kid. I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and man, your family is Baptist as hell if you don't get up. So, I was, but, it was, I never knew about that stanza. So to hear it, it's like, oh, wow. But, it just brought up all the sentiments that I had. We've been going at it here in Georgia with the Confederate flag Don't y'all call in and say a damn word about that Confederate flag. I will cuss you out, and I might cut you. But you know, it just brought up all those feelings, and it was like, you know, I want, until this country, its promise made to me, and honor the sacrifice made by my relatives. I'm not standing for that.
Right. And that's, I mean, that's my biggest thing though. I think we're so caught up on the symbolism, right, without the reality. Because a lot of people getting all upset. Because we also this weekend we had at the same memorial, you know, NFL games, we had people booing President Obama. It's 9/11, and you're upset that players are exercising their constitutional right to protest during the Star Spangled Banner. But you're booing the president on 9/11
because he didn't come get
that. That didn't make any sense.
The camps, you know, they're mad because they had expectations.
But like he killed Osama bin Laden. Like, you should be cheering for him. Like, I don't like, or you don't like him. That's fine. But there's this whole conversation about respect.
There's ISIS everywhere. Look behind you. There's ISIS. You know,
I'm sure there's ISIS everywhere. My kids are probably
they're in the bushes. They're coming.
No, but seriously though, but seriously, we're so caught up on the symbolism and the fiction that is America, and people use that to bleed out what is the reality and fail to really see what is before us. Because even if you're one of those deplorable people, we went back and forth about this earlier. Even if you're one of those deplorable people that Hillary Clinton is referring to, going on in the realm of where you live that is not okay and should not be acceptable in this supposedly great country that is called America, that you should understand that there is not a blind allegiance to anything, especially when we talk about like I talked about my time in Appalachia. Extreme abject poverty and I mean, people's spirits being broken down and overrun by these conservative Democrats and the damn you know, these corporations and stuff like that. You have a billionaire coal monger like Jim Justice is in line to be the Democratic, you know, nominee for governor. It's insane. And so when people are suffering the way they are, when their kids have been deprived of opportunity the way they have, I mean, to say, well, I mean, I guess people feel like they need something to believe in because they're still white, maybe that's what it is. I really don't know what it is, but even Black folks, I think folks just want to belong so bad they want to ignore all this. In the Seattle Seahawks, let me even get started on the Seattle Seahawks. Hell, we're gonna lock our arms in unity because we're all together and we need to fight this fight. Man, sit your simp ass down someplace, like for real. That's some real simp.
Multiple for them.
Okay, so I did have a video that I want to show you real quick, and then I'll finish my tirade about the Seattle Seahawks. But just a clip from the protest earlier today out there, actually at one of the construction sites in North Dakota. Thank you, David.
Oh, how cool is that? They're just, you know, because, you know, there's a real need for people standing out there with guns in South Dakota.
Right. So they had folks out there in riot gear, arresting people.
Because that's what it looked like. So it
looked like a full tactical unit. I mean, it's
in the pipeline. You people don't understand. ISIS is in the pipeline.
You are so stupid, but it's a lot going on, and just keep supporting, keep spreading the information, because mainstream media is not interested. Like, I know Ben already covered. Amy Goodman got hit with an arrest warrant out in North Dakota. Jill Stein's been hit with an arrest warrant. I mean,
she doesn't care. Those
arresting
really could care less.
But I'm just saying, like, definitely that, you know, we know about those people, but there are countless folks, actual water protectors, actual warriors on the ground. So please donate to the Defense Fund. I will tweet it out again. If you're following Sacred Stone Camp on Facebook or Twitter. I know you do. And we talked about this some on Sunday too, and the ladies weren't very happy about it then either. But I'll let you get to it. But definitely, I will retweet out the link for the Defense Fund. But people are out there putting their time and putting their liberty. This is what we're talking about, right? When we're talking about what that Star Spangled Banner is supposedly standing for, what the Constitution supposedly stands for, all that other BS that people want to throw up and act like it's so wonderful. This is what we're talking about here. And when this type of injustice can continue to happen in the great country that allegedly is America, we have a problem. We can't just sit there and smile and grin and say, "Oh, it's the flag. We're perfect. We're all one. Yeah, yay boo. How you doing?" No, like we can't do that. We can't do that. There's never an opportune time to call out injustice. The time to call out injustice is always right now. I'm paraphrasing, but yeah. Go ahead. I know you wanted to get on that.
Well, my whole thing with and you've heard me say it, stay your ass home. Okay? There's just no other way for me to put it. I can't be tactful. And no offense to anybody out there. I'm not saying I don't want you to do anything. But everybody jumping in their car, if you know you don't have no damn money, running up to somewhere where you're just going to stand around with the camera, because that's not really helping. And I need people to stop and think. This go down. I need you to stop and kind of draw a map. And one of the great things that Democracy Now! Has put out there is a map showing all the connections as to who's really behind this pipeline. And when you get to it, you come to, now, if you really want to be effective, if you're living in California or somewhere, or like me in Georgia, come to Dakota, okay? I can tell you that straight up, because I ain't got no money for that, and I ain't got nowhere to stay and all that.
I wanted to go, and I told you I had wanted to go. We talked about this. I wanted to go, and I priced the plane ticket, and I do know some. I don't mind. I can sleep on the floor. I sleep in the tent. And you got to bring your own stuff. I saw someone post and asked what was made available. Why are you looking for people to make stuff available to you? They are fighting for their lives right now. Why should they be making? There's some porta potties on site. Like, you need to come. They need you to send stuff. But I was thinking about it, and like the plane ticket from here is like $1,000, and I told you I talked to Michael Salomon. He was saying the same thing. He really wanted to get out there. He was willing to drive from New York or do whatever. But we felt bad. Yeah, we would like to actually be there. We'd actually like to continue our great citizen journalism. But at the same time, you got to weigh what's the most important use. What can I do? That's the most valuable thing. I think the most valuable thing I could do was send something to someone in need.
Move your money. If you bank with one of those banks, you are really indirectly helping to enable this corporation to suppress and oppress this community. And a lot of times we don't stop and think as to the ties that bind, because a lot of times it's actually a freaking hydra we're dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the levels, like when somebody was breaking it down with the different parent companies and subsidiaries and who has what, I mean, it really is. It's a shell game. It's a shell game. This is what the rich do. These are different loopholes and stuff they do to do business, and they sell different things to each other, and which is really, it'll just be the same person as owner of the different companies and stuff. It's very disgusting. And we're not really having that conversation on a national level. We're too busy pointing fingers and calling each other's followers names. But like Stacey pointed out to me earlier, when have we ever really had a substantive conversation on a national level? Yes, when Bernie Sanders ran in the primary.
We tried.
To some extent in 2008 with Barack Obama, but even then it was still the kind of petty regular politics. So yeah, we tried in the primary, and unfortunately it did not work out. But here we are, we're at the worst version of American politics right now. And it's really disgusting. It's it's disheartening. It's discouraging. And I kind of just want to say, see y'all in 4 years.
Discouraging, and it is disheartening, because I like to call this election year the smoke 'em if you got an election. End times. But first of all, you have to maintain some sense of humor, or you will just start picking people off from the tower, right? You have to maintain, and you have to hold on to hope. That was the last thing in Pandora's box. I know it sounds really corny, and there's some folks like, I ain't trying to hear that. You do have to hold on to that, because it's going to get better. The sun will rise in the east and set in the west. I promise you this. But everybody needs to calm down, take pause, because it's like we are operating in a state of sheer insanity right now.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I get up in the morning, I'll click on this social media platform. Oh, y'all mad. Click on this one. Oh, y'all mad too. Twitter, y'all are just crazy.
Twitter is crazy. Twitter's nuts.
Twitter is a open air internet psychiatric ward. It's just, everybody needs help, including myself. But it is just like, it is really, really stunning to hear some of the things that come out of people's mouths that on Twitter. And, but it's easy to get discouraged. I remember a long time ago, before he pissed me off, Representative John Lewis, it was some event in Atlanta, and I walked up to him and I was like, yeah, I'm an activist. I went all fangirl and, oh my god, it's Representative Lewis. And he just looked at me like, yeah, whatever. When I grow up, I want to be just like you, and I want to be an activist. And he grabbed he turned around like I just said, something really cool. And he turns around and he looked at me and he grabbed my hands and he said, do you go to church? Yeah, which I do, but not as regular as I want. So Pastor Warnick, if you're watching this, yeah, but I got you. But anyway, grabs my hands and looks in my eyes and he goes, you're going to have to go to church, because this will take, he said, if that is what you want to do, take your soul. You have to have a center. And when he said that, that meant so much to me. And he was right, because you do. I mean, whether it's, Christianity or religion that does it to you or whatever, the flying spaghetti monster, I don't care. Whether it's your family, your kids, you need something as your center
something
to hold
else
on.
to center you, definitely.
Where you got to get your token, and you need to hold on to that token, because this is like the Zorro world, and it will suck your soul, and it will turn you into what you hate. And that's my struggle right now, not to be bitter, jaded, and all that, which, I'm working on that, but it will suck your soul.
So I know we've talked a lot, especially in the past couple of days, we've gotten different information, and there's a whole bunch of these initiatives and organizations and different things. Shout out to everybody that feels that they're contributing in their own way and keeping movement building, keeping organizing activity going forward. But there's a big push, and not just with, millennials and Black millennials, but there's a big push to get people to register to vote. Now, I know we've talked about this several times, and people continue to want to register register new voters. We have plenty of people who are actually registered to vote in this country, but they don't necessarily show up to vote. So I just kind of wanted to we only have like about 5-6 minutes left. So I wanted to kind of circle back with you about that, because that is something that we talk about constantly. Voter engagement.
Okay. I can knock this out in maybe 2 minutes. And let me pause before I say this, because I put very great care and thought in the following comments. I ain't registering nobody, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I've done this work for years, right? New blood. Secondly, and most importantly, all the folks who are coming out and asking you to volunteer, and the V word, I don't like the V word, registering voters, right? Because that's something, these organizations, I used to do this. You got to hit a number. You do not count on volunteers to get this work done. That's what got New Georgia Project all jacked up. And that's something else. What's really got me is that all these groups who are coming out and everybody's like, oh, come help us register to vote. Primaries. Nobody wanted to do it during the primaries. Now you realize
nobody wanted to register the voters. Nobody wanted to get people out to vote. Now we have to, because we have to beat Trump. It's so important.
Right, because of ISIS. But
we told you it was important 7 months ago.
But, and that's a form of voter suppression, not fraud. that is common practice that's done. You suppress in the primaries, you turn out in the general. So, you know, for me, people can get mad. Come at me, dog. But, you know, to watch what happened during the primaries, particularly, you know, in these states, in my opinion, is 24/7, 365. It should be done all year. There are always people who are coming into the system. But the problem is you can register as many people you want. You can give them all the tools. You can get them ID. You can take them to the polls. Until you give, they will sit up there and look at you and go, and now what? Who do I vote for? These people are not as politically astute as some of us who are on the internet and, you know where to get the information. They don't know who to vote for, and some of them will tell you, I'm not voting for anyone. So all of this, to me, you would be best spent trying to get voters who haven't come out, because if you look at the numbers, the first time registered voters, they'll come out for maybe the election that you registered them in, and then they don't. And for Georgia, and I was just looking at a map, Gretchen Quartermain, folks down in the 8th Congressional District, there's a map showing the Democratic offices. It's a little North Georgia heavy. They've got one like on one side of the state, and it's pretty wide at the bottom, and the other at the middle. They've left the whole middle and South Georgia out, and then they wonder why they lose elections. Now, I'm not a DNC person. I'm not a Democrat. I am not a intellectual by any means. Be a brain surgeon to figure that out. And, it gets really frustrating when you hear all of this stuff coming out. Oh, we're going to turn this, I don't know what color Georgia's supposed to be. Georgia's going to be red.
Georgia's going to be purple or blue. No, Georgia's going to be purple or blue. Georgia is becoming more and more progressive and liberal. You just wait. You just wait.
Magically delicious.
It is. It really is. It's going to be like a medley of purpleishness.
It's going to be mud. I mean, it's going to be the same until 2020, and we address the redistricting. Georgia's going to be very red, and if they don't come up with a damn governor to because in Georgia, he who has the governor's seat controls redistricting. They couldn't even get anybody to run against Johnny Isaacson. I don't know if they're going to get anybody. I don't know who's going to run for Nathan Deal. I don't. Might be Kasim Reed. Who knows? Oh God. But
but this has been.
But so, I mean,
that's a whole nother story. But Ben is about to come in after me. Stacey and I. So this is what we're gonna do. Stacey and I are gonna take a brief break. Benjamin Dixon is coming in at 9 p.m. right behind me. I'm getting ready to close out. This has been The Way of Anoa. And Stacey and I are actually going to continue our conversation via podcast because we can keep going for about another. Yeah, we are. We're going to continue our conversation. We're going to keep going. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Definitely check us out. Well, you can kind of, I don't know if Stacey wants you to find her on Twitter, but.
No, you can find me on Twitter, but. Just
come find Stacey on Twitter. Definitely continue to like, share, subscribe. Shout out to the folks who have begun to support my Patreon. Become patrons of The Way. Please, if you are able to spare $1, $5, whatever you can share. I can't accept the kind of jingles online, but the crumpled ones, they feel real good. So appreciate you guys so much. That was from Coming to America, but it's okay.
I get it.
Yeah, because we didn't even get to talk about Tupac. So anyway, this has been The Way of Anoa. It is September 13th, 2016. Yeah, no problem. We'll just do 30 minutes. All right, talk to you guys soon. Peace.